Esoteric Encyclopedia of Eternal Knowledge by Vernon Howard, beginning with O. Observe other people. As a personal project, look behind the physical appearance of another person to penetrate the secrets of the inner man. Ignoring his physical self for the moment, try to see the psychological person who stands before you. Be aware of why he says what he does. Notice how easily he is distracted by a sudden noise. Observe tension or irritation in his general manner. After practicing this for a while, you may be astonished at how the observed person seems to change before your eyes. He is not what you thought he was. The person whom you thought you understood has become a stranger who is far less confident than he appeared to be. Of course, the person has not changed at all. You are seeing him as he really is behind his external stage performance. The purpose of this practice is not to criticize the other person, but to see his actual condition, to know the psychological person. This works for you in many ways, including the talent for independence in human relations. Occupy yourself. About 3 years ago, said Milton, a strange restlessness possessed me. Its very vagueness was frightening. I felt urged to search for something, but had no idea what it might be. All I knew was that I could not continue with my usual life. Am I making sense? Perfect sense. Consciousness of restlessness is the first stirring of new life. Your next step is to give direction to this restlessness, for it contains great energy. But I need so much help. Is it available? You can have all the help you want, providing you want help more than you want anything else. Something is happening to me. What is it? What is happening is that your world is becoming too small for you. You said you cannot go on with your usual ways. That is tremendous. Already you are bursting out of boundaries. Now, occupy yourself with these teachings until they tell their full and fascinating story. Office building. Picture a 10-story office building. Businessman A occupies an office on the first floor, as does businessman B. The first floor is a madhouse of confusion where papers get lost and contradictory orders are given. Weary of the chaos, businessman A moves up to the second floor, where he finds conditions somewhat better. Pleased, he sends a message down to the first floor, informing businessman B of the improvement, but B fails to investigate. Besides, he does not believe A. The encouraged businessman A next moves to the third floor, which proves to be even better than the second floor. Once more, he contacts B, but B finds the second message even more unbelievable than the first. So businessman A continues to move upwards into better and better conditions, but B remains on the level of chaos. Businessman A is an example of what can happen to anyone who no longer wants chaos. He knows that his success can also be the success of others. But will they listen? One mind. Practice putting yourself in the other person's place. It is a highly scientific method for self-liberation, which is the same as self-contentment. Swinging over to the other's viewpoint serves as a hammer for knocking down the illusory wall between the individual and the universal whole. As the wall crumbles, so do anxious strivings, for now there are no enemies or competitors to conquer. The practice is easy enough. Just try to see everything from his viewpoint, which does not require agreement. The point is to see both his side and yours at the same moment, which produces an astonishing result. You realize that where there are opposite positions, true cooperation among men is impossible. After that, an even more astonishing light glows. You have transcended dualistic thinking. You are above the tyranny of self-concern because you are above the synthetic self, which operates with double thinking. Your mind is one. Oneness. What is the nature of this new world we are exploring together? It is totally unlike anything you have ever experienced before. It exists within you, a magnificent world unseen by the five senses, but felt by those psychic faculties attuned to it. It is a world of authentic self-command. You see, everyone knows there is something missing from his life, but does not know what it is. What is missing is oneness. We do not, in fact, lack oneness. We are oneness. The damage is done by lack of realization. That is why humanity is like a group of frantic people who think they must run on the riverbank alongside the boat instead of riding in it. You are learning to ride. One objective. These studies are all about the solving of daily problems, the ending of unwanted experiences, the winning of self-command. They show us how to fight for, not against ourselves. Certainly, we must fight for ourselves, but must understand what it means to battle for self-victory. The spiritual battle must include no negative aims, such as the wish to attract attention or the desire to feel superior to others. Such aims always end in despairing defeat, for they are vain attempts to pin medals onto a non-existent person. There is no such thing as a separate self which can attract attention or win over supposed rivals. The spiritual soldier marches towards one objective only. He aims to win over his own warring illusions. He wishes to stop being his own worst enemy. Open mind. Consider your problem, whatever it might be. Perhaps it involves marriage or finances or health, or perhaps you fear losing your security, or maybe you cannot obtain what you feel you must have. Next, remember that there is a great difference between thinking about a problem and having a completely open mind towards it. Thinking about a difficulty cannot end it because the thought and the difficulty reside on the same psychological level. Conditioned thought is the very cause of the problem. Therefore, it cannot save itself. Something higher is needed. This something higher exists within a truly open mind, a mind which neither attacks nor defends a problem. An open mind ends the illusion of an individual self, which ends the illusion of a problem-burdened person, which ends the illusory existence of the problem. Have an open mind towards the preceding paragraph. Operation of cosmic law. Ponder the cosmic principle. Whatever you wish for another, you also wish for yourself. This applies to every person, whether or not he is aware of it. Read it again. Whatever you wish for another, you also wish for yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Look how it proceeds with a negative wish. Tom has been hurt by Bill, so he takes mental revenge by wishing misfortune towards Bill. When Tom wishes misfortune towards Bill, it plainly indicates that Tom himself lives in a house of misfortune, for Tom can only give out what he has for himself. So each time Tom secretly wishes misfortune for anyone, he has no choice but to wish it for himself. He is his own wish, and is therefore his own punishment. To break this dismal pattern, Tom must become conscious of how this cosmic law operates. It will then swing over to its positive side. By living in his own recovered light, Tom will naturally wish this abundant light for others. Opportunity for self-change. Many people fear the rescuing facts. Why? Truth always seems harsh and frightening to an unwise hearer. This is because he plays his usual game of seeing the truth as he is, not as truth is. Everyone has an opportunity for self-change by letting the truth be whatever it wants to be. Please review your statements about giving to others, about generosity. There is considerable confusion here. A person has only one thing to give others, his own level of maturity or immaturity. That is the whole story. So who is the truly generous person? Obviously, the one who actively seeks to raise his own level of cosmic maturity. You hit the target with me at the last meeting. You said we exhaust ourselves in needless efforts to prove ourselves right. There is only one way to prove yourself right, which is to never try to prove it. Real rightness has no need to prove itself any more than an eagle needs to prove he is one. Opposing sides. A man who takes a side can never know the truth. Truth is above all man-made sides and positions. Where there is side A, there must be side B, which creates conflict. Truth has nothing to do with conflict. This cosmic principle frightens immature thinkers, for they take sides in order to gain feelings of importance and individualism. They fight back by asking, how can life go on unless we develop opposing sides? We can then select the features from both sides which we believe best. That is a typical delusion. God, truth, reality does not have to believe anything. Reality knows. Besides, it might be asked, honestly now, what is man's condition under his present method of taking sides? It takes great courage to let go of sides. It means one must no longer live by the labels which seem to provide satisfaction and security. It means the end of the false pleasure of battling with the opposite side. But above the opposites is the real. Orators. A man was travelling through the wilderness when he came across some animals having a speech contest. The judge was a lion who invited the man to become part of the audience. The man accepted. A fox stood up and gave a smooth and clever speech. At one point he declared, "The moon is larger than the sun." The next speaker was an elephant whose voice boomed out with power and authority. His talk included the sentence, "Summer is colder than winter." Then came a tiger whose eloquence impressed everyone. At one point he said, "The river runs uphill." The observing man remarked to the lion, "They are superb orators. However, I am puzzled. All of them made statements which were obviously untrue. Not only that, but the audience either did not notice or did not care. Why do your speakers make false statements?" "That is an unworthy habit, all right," admitted the lion. "But the audience is more interested in entertainment than enlightenment. I have often wondered where we picked up the habit." Original place. Luther Burbank, the botanical genius, presented hundreds of new varieties of fruits and vegetables to the world. He had a simple method for testing a new fruit he believed was particularly favoursome. Asking his friends to close their eyes, he gave them a slice of the new fruit. Their reactions to the new taste supplied helpful information to Burbank. Since it was a new fruit, the friends had to react from an original place within themselves, not from mere memories of other fruits they had eaten. Each person has an original place within himself, untouched and uninfluenced by past experiences. It may be unfound as yet, but it is there. This original place is totally self-governing, depending upon nothing outside itself. It knows instantly the difference between the taste of truth and what conditioned memory labels as truth. It knows what is truly right for itself, receiving that alone, declining all else. Whoever lives from his original place receives its unique refreshment all day long. Outdoor class. It was a pleasant day, so a teacher and his audience were having an outdoor session. Since the audience was large, the teacher used a microphone. In the middle of the talk, the sound system broke down. The teacher used the opportunity to teach a lesson. Offering the microphone to the nearest man, the teacher requested, "Will you make this right?" The man explained as he shook his head, "I'm sorry, but I do not understand sound systems." The microphone was offered to several others, but each explained his inability to repair it. "Ah," the teacher applied the lesson. "You cannot repair the microphone because you do not understand it, yet you expect to stop feeling lonely without understanding what loneliness is all about. You wish to conquer anxiety without seeing into the nature of anxiety." The audience nodded in understanding of the lesson. Over the bridge. There is a particular bridge along the cosmic trail which can be crossed with elevated understanding. The bridge appears when a newcomer asks questions such as, "How can I solve my financial problems?" and "What can I do about a troublesome relative?" The teacher's answer may seem irrelevant. He may appear to be discussing something entirely foreign to the question. The teacher might reply, "Wisdom towards finances must follow wisdom towards your own mind," or "Is there an unseen part of you which secretly enjoys having trouble with this relative?" Bewildered and disappointed, the inquirer feels that the teacher cannot help. What happens, of course, is that the beginner makes the mistake made by all beginners. He expects the answer to be on the same level as the question. He cannot as yet conceive a solution which is beyond conditioned thought. So though hesitant at this bridge, he can study it until perception enables him to cross over. Overwhelming circumstances. Lucy asked, "What can we do when feeling overwhelmed by circumstances?" Any time you feel the walls are closing in on you, a simple remedy is on hand. Just see where the walls exist, in your own mind and nowhere else. Let them overwhelm you and they will disappear. I would like to understand that last sentence. A certain part of the mind operates incorrectly, thus creating the illusion of walls. These walls cannot exist unless given life by another part of the mind which creates them by fighting them. An illusion is conquered by not fighting it, by sitting aside and calmly watching its strange antics. Why is watchfulness so effective? Because it calls the bluff on illusion. You see, illusion has no power in itself. It depends entirely upon the careless cooperation of the person it attacks. When you calmly observe it, instead of fighting back, it gets discouraged and goes away in defeat. P. Patience. Patience is a virtue in our inner endeavours. Be patient. Do not be impulsive. When you do not know what to do something different. Do not anxiously plan. Do not demand an answer. Do not run somewhere. Stay where you are. Be calm. Wait, but wait actively. Reflect about your life here on earth. Read an informative book. Discuss with others. Learn the movements and the motives of your mind. The answer will come, but it will not be the answer you expected. What you expected was either a yes or a no. Your answer will be neither of these, for it is above all such expected opposites. It is the answer, not an unconsciously desired answer. Stay where you are. That changes where you are. You elevate yourself to a lofty position which clearly reveals the answer, like a man on top of a wall who sees both sides at once. From this height, you realize that the answer to the question consists of the very disappearance of the question. A man on top of a wall has no questions as to what is on either side. He sees, knows, rests. Pearls. A student of truth asked his teacher, "Why do so many people continue with error instead of finding truth?" Replied the teacher, "Because error is like leaves scattered on the surface of the sea. They are easy to collect. Truth is like pearls in deep water. Few men care to take the adventurous dive. Be one of the adventurers. Adventure with this thought. You can do as much as you can see, if you really know what it means to see. To the undivided man, seeing and doing are the same thing. To do, see. See this. You are living in the real world when you don't care whether or not it collapses. However, this real world can never collapse. Only a false world can do that. Those living in the real world know all this. For this reason, the notion of collapse or non-collapse have no place in their minds. There is nothing to think about. Persistent problems. There are so many new problems every minute, commented Roy. It seems impossible to even begin to handle them. Roy and the class were told, in one sense, no one ever has new problems. He has new forms of his old problem, which is lack of self-knowledge. A troubled man hacks vainly at sour fruits, leaving the unhealthy roots to continue their work. Take the problem of self-rejection, which creates other problems including depression and a frantic search for approval. The whole problem vanishes by understanding that the rejected self has no real existence. It is merely a dream picture, a false idea one has about oneself, an unconsciously played stage role. Suppose an actor plays the role of a persecuted man. What happens to his persecution when he walks off stage? Personal communication. In early civilization, long-distance communication was achieved with waved flags, smoke signals, reflections in a mirror. Effectiveness was limited, for hills and groves could block visual contact. Inventors and scientists developed the telephone and radio and television, which leaped mountains with ease. As an esoteric scientist, you are developing new methods for communicating with inner forces. One of them is the realization that whatever is wrong for you is also unnecessary. Consider this tremendous fact. It means you need not cringe before anyone or anything. Fear is always wrong, so it is completely unnecessary. Whether realized or not, this is a fact. Realize it for yourself. You can develop direct and effective communication with your inner forces. Personality clash. Requested Elizabeth, please explain what is commonly called a personality clash between two people. It involves two confused people who hope to win the argument while fearing to lose. They hope to win in order to confirm the pleasant pictures they have of themselves, such as being intelligent or authoritative. But you can't confirm illusions, so the battle is in vain. A free man never has such clashes, for he has no need to prove anything. He lives above mental self-portraits. If someone behaves angrily towards a free man, it means nothing to him. Asked Elizabeth, why not? Anger hurts only when it strikes the false self in the intended target. A free man has no false self. Pieces of gold. Eric commented, I'm sure there are many lessons we will learn which we don't even suspect at the present time. Some of them may even shock us, as have some of our past lessons. Will you please prepare us for one of them? You may think that a certain person cares for you. As happens with many people, you may see he never really cared for you at all, but merely used you for selfish purposes. Your beautiful dream is shattered. You may feel with rage and shame that the other person made a fool of you. Go beyond that useless emotionalism. Examine the shattered pieces of the dream. They are pieces of gold. See that you were asleep. Otherwise, you would not have had a dream to be shattered. See that you don't need deceptive dreams. See that you have been shocked, but shocked awake. Now stay awake to prevent it from happening again. What superb progress you're making. Pleasant atmospheres. Will you please discuss psychological atmosphere? For example, what makes us feel the way we do? Every person is his own atmosphere. To state it another way, we feel what we are. How can it be otherwise? So in order to dwell in more pleasant atmospheres, we must transform the nature which causes them. A cherry tree feels the nature of a cherry tree because that is the only nature it has. So it is with us. We can begin to see the truth of this by not depending upon exterior circumstances for happiness. Do you know why a cherry tree is naturally content? Because it is not trying to become an oak or a sycamore, but is content to be itself. How can I be myself? You are never anything but yourself. But this is hidden from you at present by artificial behaviour, which strains to become a successful self or a popular self. By doing nothing to become someone, you become yourself. Does a cherry tree try to become a cherry tree? Points to ponder. A man's level of psychic health consists of what he actually values, not what he says he values. The aim of a chained man is to chain others, while the aim of a free man is to free others. To let go means to release conditioned thought because you see it is incapable of doing the work of consciousness. A man in a state of psychic hypnosis does not know he dwells in psychic dreamland. And that is the entire human problem. When living from truth, there is no compulsive need to defend it, for only unlived truth arouses compulsive defence. When you do not know what to do about a crisis, remember that a quiet mind knows the whole answer. The next time you meet what you call defeat, just stand there and be completely defeated and watch what happens. Positive fuels. At the start of each day, an individual has his choice of two kinds of fuel. Whether his day is pleasant or not depends upon his choice. Many people actually depend upon the fuel of disturbance and irritation to carry them through. As strange as it sounds, they look forward to incidents which provide an excuse for emotional upset. This is because negative fuels provide a false feeling of life. The person feels alive and thrilled only when expending his negative fuels. He has the feeling of going somewhere, but it is illusory progress. He is merely agitating in a fixed position, like a factory machine. But there are positive fuels which carry us forward as swiftly as they are employed. A few of them are watchfulness, inquiry, experimentation, daring. There is one fuel with extraordinary power. It is an ardent love for self-knowledge. Practical activities. We must remind ourselves often of the need to separate practical activities from useless ones. A genuine teacher helps here, for he urges his listeners towards serviceable accomplishments only. Among other encouragements, he urges people to study and understand cosmic laws, free themselves from borrowed ideas, not refuse the lesson in heartache, awaken from illusions of being happy, not be afraid of themselves, decline to be influenced by other people, detect and end self-damage, deeply examine their inner condition, recognize and abandon worthless goals, Devote cheerful energy towards self-change. Select one of these for today's consideration. See it as a practical teaching which is on your side. Prepare yourself. There is an interesting story about the introduction of dates from Egypt to the southwestern United States. Many years ago, agriculturalists imported date palms, but because conditions were not right, they failed to thrive. Scientific studies of the tree revealed the preparations which had to be made for successful date harvests. In addition to a desert climate, the date palm required extraordinary amounts of water. When preparations were complete, thousands of offshoots were imported from Egypt and Algeria. Date growing now thrives in the United States. Likewise, we need only prepare ourselves to make internal conditions ready. Then, like honoured guests, fresh truths enter and blossom all by themselves, refreshing us. Everything in this book contributes to your preparation. Presence of mind. The common saying, "He was absent-minded," conceals an uncommonly valuable lesson. In few words, it describes man's woeful wandering and hints at the homeward course. A negative response to an exterior challenge separates us from it, blocking comprehension. Anger or fear makes us absent from clear vision and therefore prevents right action. The opposite of absence is presence. So we can see what it means to maintain presence of mind. It means to keep your mind where the action is, to be fully aware of what you are doing at the moment you do it. This consciousness prevents negative reactions from separating you from the challenge. Staying at home with your own mind supplies a comprehension which never permits a challenge to become a problem. Go home. Stay at home. There is rest. Principle of self-correction. A troubled man starts rightly by thinking he needs rescue from something, but then makes a mistake. He believes he needs rescue from something other than himself. For example, being disappointed with his usual friends, he considers finding new people with whom to keep company. But he rarely considers the kind of thoughts with which he keeps company. The man who stumbles with his mind has no choice but to also stumble with his foot. It is elementary psychological law that the foot must follow the mind. That is a simple and clear explanation of how the inner state reproduces itself outwardly, for either pain or peace. Return every day to the principle of self-correction. Problems. Esotericism is like a powerful flashlight. One beam of its light can plunge into the darkness, revealing shadowy figures to be nothing but harmlessly swaying trees. Take the person who fears other people, a common and an unnecessary condition. That person lives under tyranny because of his own mental hypnosis. The problem resides in his own false beliefs about the power of other people. False beliefs exist only in one's own mind. If the mind did not misunderstand, where would the belief exist? It would not exist at all. That is why your first thought upon arising in the morning should be, well, what new insight can I win today? Proceed with confidence. Esotericism gets right to the point with perfect logic. Here is an example. If you are not the person you think you are, you do not have the problems you think you have. You are not the person you think you are. You do not have the problems you think you have. Proceed with confidence in your ability to see what this means. Your confidence is rightly invested, for it is quite possible to grasp that which may presently seem beyond your reach. Just keep reaching. There is a certain realization which supplies strength for doing this. Realise the profound message in the next paragraph. Truth alone is genuinely compassionate. All else is deception and exploitation. Living within the compassion of truth comes by examining both truth and deception until seeing the difference in the two. Remember, deception and exploitation cunningly masquerade as compassion. Look into your real nature, for it knows the difference in the two. Profitable questions. A teacher of higher truth urged his students to ask profitable questions. When the students requested examples, the teacher said, "Any question asked with a sincere wish for more light is a valuable question. You might ask how false assumptions can be banished. The answer is to see that false assumptions produce false happiness. You might want to know how to inspire your efforts at self-elevation. The answer is to see the happy necessity for self-elevation. Comprehension comes. It is like sitting before a window at daybreak, watching dark and vague shapes turn into recognizable trees and walls. Remember that knowledge is a necessary acquisition, but that it is not the same thing as comprehension. We can read and remember 1,000 books about rubies without ever seeing or holding a single ruby. Knowledge begins to turn into insight as we permit the facts to work on us, to alter attitudes and ideas. Profound lesson. I'm unable to determine what is really beneficial for me. You can know what is right for you only when knowing the difference between the artificial you and the real you. See the difference, otherwise you will wearily try to get something for a non-existent person. Why do we get what we get? You get always and only a return of your own nature. Whatever you are today, you get tomorrow. If you do not like what you get, change what you are. Thanks to these teachings, I'm beginning to see the perils of carelessly following those who are supposed to have the answers. Yes, like the owner of a cafe who dines somewhere else, many advisors would be horrified if they had to take their own advice. All of us in this class know we have elementary lessons to learn. However, to make us think more energetically, may we have an especially profound lesson. When you are at the complete mercy of everyone and everything, and you do not fight, you have won. Protection. Why does mankind fail to reach the other shore? Because a man, under the illusion of owning a yacht, cannot be persuaded to take lessons in rowing. Here is a rowing lesson for those who want the other shore. It is much easier to ask questions than to listen to answers. Have you ever thought about that? For a while, reverse the procedure. Instead of concentrating on questions, listen with full attention to answers. Listen as if much depends upon it, for it does. Listen to what the next paragraph has to say. The esoteric pioneer collects protective insights. One of them is an understanding of how some people operate when meeting others for the first time. Suppose a new person comes into your life. Observe. He may subtly test the limits of his liberties with you. Wanting something from you, he will see how far he can go towards getting it without being rebuked or stopped. Don't let him go anywhere. Be awake. See through the game. Awareness is protection. Psychic hypnosis. Gerald opened the class discussion with, "We are told to replace self-condemnation with self-understanding. I can see how self-condemnation keeps us in the very self-centered trap we wish to break. However, it is still necessary to examine our blunders and contradictions. How can we look at ourselves without falling into condemnation or guilt? First of all, See that self-blame is just another mechanical reaction which must be broken. Secondly, refuse to enjoy the attention arising from self-condemnation, for attention promotes self-centeredness. Thirdly, instead of labelling yourself as evil or bad, see yourself as being under psychic hypnosis. What we commonly call badness is the same as being in psychic hypnosis. Psychological earplugs. An incompetent carpenter once built a creaky house for himself and maintained it as carelessly. The roof threatened to collapse. The floors were rough to walk upon. His neighbours warned him of the dangers and the unattractiveness of his house, but he angrily refused to listen. Finally, getting tired of unwanted advice, he placed plugs in his ears. The warnings continued, but the carpenter only smiled, not hearing a word. Inevitably, one day his house collapsed. Fortunately, the man escaped with only minor injuries. His neighbours scolded, "See, we warned you. You are punished by your own stubbornness." The carpenter just smiled pleasantly. He still wore his earplugs. Incredibly, in spite of the disaster, the carpenter went right back to the same foolishness. He built and lived in another hazardous house. He was again warned, but never changed his perilous ways. That was because he had, by this time, taken his earplugs as both a normal and easy way of life. This explains the tragic life of men and women who insist upon wearing psychological earplugs. Psychological future. Anyone's psychological future can be predicted with absolute accuracy. Take a person who gets hurt by involvements with deceitful people who exploit and desert him. You might ask the injured person, "Why did you get involved in that circumstance in the first place?" He may answer, but he will not really know why he walked straight into his own distress. This is because he fails to understand his mechanical desires. He is an unconscious human being, but not in 1,000 years will you convince him of that. His future is certain. He will continue to stumble into trouble. Only the exterior scenery will be different. Only one force can break the miserable pattern, a conscious way of life. He could listen earnestly to the question, "Why did you get involved in that circumstance in the first place?" That will change the man, which will change his future, for he is his own future. Psychological slavery. "I now know what you mean by psychological slavery," stated Louise. "I fear people. Everyone seems so much more intelligent and authoritative that I spend most of my time cringing. The only slave master is your own conditioning. You must see how earlier hurts from people hardened into unconscious whips, feeling inferior. You yourself project the illusion of their power and superiority. No one can hurt you now, but you live in memory, not in now. The next time you are with someone who appears strong and dominating, watch him carefully. Notice his nervous gestures, mechanical smiles, sudden blockages in thought and speech. You attribute power to him? Stop it at once. He is a weak and scared human being who has mastered the art of pretending. Nothing more. See this for yourself. Other insights must come, but start with this. Psychological sunshine. There is a psychological law with enough sunshine to cheer up the most gloomy and defeated person on earth. Here it is. No man knowingly works against his own true nature. Before reading on, review that sentence. Even a glimpse of its significance can start your life on the upward path. The word knowingly deserves special attention. Any action taken against ourselves is performed unconsciously. Because we have not studied ourselves, we do not see how we step on our own toes. As a simple example, Mr. A puts pressure on Mr. B, perhaps socially, politically, religiously, in office or home. The very wish to apply pressure is Mr. A's own punishment, for no one can hurt another without already having that hurt within himself. Since it is psychic sleep that makes us work against ourselves, the solution is obvious. We must wake up. It is the awakening of self-knowledge that does the work for us. From now on, be on your own side. Q. Quaking mind. In the morning, a person puts some personal or business plan into operation while wondering, is this the way life works? At the end of a day of defeat, he gloomily concludes, no, that is not the way it works. His terror consists of not knowing which way to turn. His error consists of failure to see that his unenlightened nature can never know what to do. His quaking mind always thinks in terms of gain this and avoid that. He never sees that these attitudes contain terror and confusion in themselves. He needs to be told about a new kind of mind which commands every situation by not caring whether it commands it or not. In this enlightenment, he will know how life works, which places him in true command of the beginning and the ending of his day. If we want to see something for ourselves, we must do something for ourselves. We can either sit on the ground and peer through a crack in the fence, or we can climb the fence and see everything on the other side. Qualify yourself. The need to let go is so fundamental to the inner adventure, you should remind yourself of it often. Just realise the necessity of abandoning whatever does no good, such as painful memories. Who would refuse to do that? It is a startling thought, but can you imagine anyone refusing to drop the useless and the burdensome? Man refuses. We know why. His peculiar logic takes the useless as the necessary item for survival. He rarely asks, but what kind of survival is it? He just sits and suffers from his peculiar logic. An athlete wishing to win the game must qualify himself by abandoning activities which interfere with his performance on the field. Qualify yourself for self-conquest by letting go of whatever you sense must be dropped, perhaps resistance to a guiding fact. Quality in human relations. Attitudes towards other people are causes which produce the kind of effects we have in human relations. The attitudes we have towards others will be the same as those we have towards ourselves. Self-dislike must project itself outwardly in dislike of others, though pretense may conceal it. It is the actual attitude which hurts or heals in human relations. Here is how to have right attitudes towards troublesome people. See them as scared people, for that is what they are. Their unkindness is an inevitable outcome of their anxiety. Their behaviour is compulsive. They cannot recognise self-harming behaviour even when suffering from it. See them as scared, but add neither sentimentality nor compromise. Sentimentality includes self-pity. Compromise towards others reveals compromise towards oneself. Both attitudes cause wrong behaviour towards troublesome people, later regretted. A clear mind builds quality in human relations. Quandary of a student. Charles said, "Since this is only my third meeting, I'm in a quandary over many things. What is one of them? At the last meeting, you advised us to make connections between various ideas. What does this mean? Take two ideas and connect them until a third factor appears, that of perception. For instance, connect the virtue of self-responsibility with the idea of wild emotions. Try to see the many connections here. For one, a person who permits himself to be carried away by reckless feelings is responsible for where they take him. He has abandoned his right to not be psychologically kidnapped, so envy or worry is his own fault. Perception here builds watchfulness over psychic property. In spare moments during your day, make these connections. Quench escapism. A new student asked his teacher, "How can I make the crooked places straight?" Take as a fact what you now take as an insult. Details, please. Most people fail to change themselves because they wrongly take self-facts as insults. A weak man glares angrily when told of his weakness. A woman who cherishes self-pity will resent any probing into her secret love. They take facts as insults instead of as healing medicines. Facing negative features is our only chance for dissolving them. Only a faced negative fact can be changed into a positive fact. But self-confrontation is so painful. The pain itself has a false foundation. You feel pain only when an ideal but false self-image is threatened with exposure by the fact of your actual condition. No false self-picture, no pain. The entire secret of success is to quench escapism. Query about assistance. The conversation with Mr. and Mrs. M began with a discussion of good and evil. Mrs. M remarked, "We finally saw what you meant when stating that all evil is simply a state of psychic unconsciousness. This means that self-awakening is the only power for true goodness." Added Mr. M, "Man is like an incomplete house. You do not see an unfinished house as evil, but you do see it as terribly inconvenient." Mrs. M asked, "Why is it so difficult to find genuine assistance for the inner voyage?" "Because you cannot gain guidance towards the harbour from a man in the same drifting boat that you occupy. If you want to conquer fear and depression, can a fearful and depressed man help you? But the other man will never admit he is as lost as you are, for he lives by false advantages of pretending to know the way to the harbour. The question is, do you really want the harbour, or do you want pleasantly deceptive advice that carries you deeper into the fog? If you want the harbour, trust your own inner compass. Quest for smooth seas. Two human beings meet for the first time. They may come together for a business transaction, for social affairs, perhaps for romance and marriage. There is one factor which determines the course of the relationship, which makes it smooth or stormy. It is the mental and spiritual level of each person. That is the single determining factor. There is no other. With this in mind, reflect a moment. Can you imagine how any human being could neglect self-investigation? Is it not incredible that anyone would sail thoughtlessly into a stormy sea? When finding yourself in a psychic storm, say to yourself, "There is something in me which encouraged this to happen to the point where it actually happened. I wonder what it was. Impulsiveness, insecurity, thoughtlessness? Well, all can be changed. I will transform myself through self-insight, which will change my experiences. This is the main business of my life from now on, the quest for smooth seas." Question about classes. During an informal discussion after class, Keith asked, Why is it that one person can get something from esoteric classes while another cannot? Suppose a man has seriously wondered for years about his life here on earth. While dazed and dissatisfied, he happens to find a book which tells him the truth. It interests him, strikes a responsive chord. Through the book, he hears of a class in esotericism. He attends with a friend. The serious man again feels the rightness of what he hears, but the friend feels nothing. Why the difference? The serious man is ready. His friend is not. The friend is still hostile to anything which threatens his pretense of already having his life under control. Make no mistake, a deep part of the friend knows it is hearing the truth, but it feels threatened. Do you know what will happen on the way home? In one way or another, the friend will anxiously criticize the lecture. The serious man must refuse to listen to the friend's dishonest attack. Question everything. During an informal discussion, a teacher invited questions from the class. A new student raised his hand to ask, "May I know my greatest weakness?" You never question anything. You are sleepily gullible. Now I'll ask you a question. Do you know the foundation of gullibility? No, sir, please tell me. It is made of many bricks. Mental laziness is one of them. You find it easier to believe what someone says instead of determining its truth or falsity by independent investigation. A needless timidity towards the unknown is another. You fear that a new path may lead you too far away from your comfortable but wrong location. I want you to question everything. Now then, do you fully understand this? Yes, sir. I told you to question everything. Quickness of mind. As an enlightening experiment, think of a subject you understand thoroughly. It might be something connected with your business or recreation. Say it is real estate. When someone asks you a question about real estate, you answer instantly and accurately. You do not need to ponder. Time and hesitation are not involved. You just know. If everyone else on earth argued against your statement, you would calmly and confidently rest in your rightness. A mind which understands itself thoroughly possesses a similar quickness and certainty, though operating on a much higher level. It is never bogged down in theories or indecisions. Out of its clarity there leaps an instant comprehension of every arising situation. This swiftness has nothing to do with impulsive outbursts so commonly witnessed. The self-commanding mind takes a calm look, comprehends immediately, then acts, if necessary, with pure action. Quiet mind. Ordinary thinking cannot solve personal problems because ordinary thinking is the very cause of the problems. A farmer does not ask the wolf for help in protecting the sheep. Every human being who has ever had a problem somehow senses this fact. He knows very well that he never really solves a difficulty. He only shoves it into a cupboard to make room for the next one. Out of his frenzy, he reasons, if only I could stop thinking about this crisis, if only I could free my mind from its own chaos. He is closer than he realizes. Any man or woman can develop the ability to not think in ordinary ways. This is the same as thinking from a higher level, with a new mind which is not enslaved by mechanicalness. You can start by sitting quietly by yourself. Do not try to do anything with your mind. Just watch it do whatever it wants to do. Become acquainted with arising and disappearing thoughts. This experiment may feel strange at first, but persist. You will eventually catch your first glimpse of a mind which is not ordinary. It is the quiet mind, which has power to solve all problems, because it is not a problem to itself. Quivering man. One day, a quivering man visited a teacher to plead, "Please help me find myself." During the discussion, a messenger of the troubled man appeared. "I thought you would like to know," said the messenger, "that your business affairs took a sudden turn towards prosperity." The visitor exclaimed to the teacher, "Ah, I feel better now. Goodbye." A month later, the still troubled man returned to repeat his sorrowful request. "Please help me. I cannot bear my agony." The messenger appeared a second time, saying with a sly grin, "A beautiful woman awaits you at home." The visitor leapt up to gasp, "All is well. Goodbye." A friend of the teacher asked him, "How often will that quivering man repeat this pattern of behaviour?" Sighed the teacher, "Until he sees." Quizzing for insight. A teacher instructed his students, "For more guiding light, quiz yourself constantly." He then provided these examples. Do I know that frustration can lead to liberation instead of to discouragement? Why do I make shallow assumptions when I can have the powerful facts? If overwhelmed by defeatism, I can recall that reality does not believe in that state, so why should I? Can I see that being considerate of another person consists largely in not interfering with them? Do I really see the folly of being praised by deluded people? Am I aware that only a different kind of human being can recognize another different man or woman? How deeply do I see through the colourful paint with which people coat themselves to see them as they really are? Have I ever considered how worthwhile it is to learn how to not suffer from myself?